Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today in this video we are going to see very important topic in JavaScript, which is call stack and event loop in JavaScript. These are the two main important topics to understand JavaScript, how JavaScript works. In the last video we saw how the hosting works. That is also a same important topic which will make us understand how exactly JavaScript working in behind the scenes. Okay, so if you are new here, please consider subscribing so you won't miss any future content. Now let's start the video. Yes. So let's talk about call stack. Okay. So call stack is nothing but a mechanism which will going to track each and everything in JavaScript. It will track how the global scope and how the local scope has been created and what are the memory allocations are and how exactly the execution of the JavaScript is happening. These things will be there inside the call stack, and we can see this using by doing debugging on the program. Okay, and it can be happen in the browser only, but because we can't have the window in the node.js directly, so we can't directly test it inside the terminal, so we have to go to our html file and see it. Okay, so I have added this script inside this html file I have added here, and with this simple example we are going to see how exactly the call stack is working. Okay, and let's go to the browser to see this. And here is the browser, and here we can see the source file where it's saying like console and the variable is this. Okay, so I'll put the breakpoint on the line number 3 and I'll refresh. Okay, so here you can see before refreshing we have a scope tab here and the call stack tab. Okay, so this tab will going to have all the things whatever is required to track it. Okay, so whatever is tracking, it will be happening in the call stack. Okay, so let me refresh this, and we can see a anonymous function has been there. Okay, anonymous context I can say has been created inside the call stack. Okay, and also we can see in the scope we can see a global state. Okay, so if we open the global scope, we should be able to see x has been allocated a memory. Okay, so we can see x is undefined. Okay, so this has been there. Okay, this we saw in the hoisting, why it's happening. And in the call stack we can see a anonymous function is already there, or the anonymous context. Okay, so inside that it's running. Okay, so if I say next, so it should go to the next line which is saying initialize with 5, and then it comes to this, and after that it will end it. Okay, so it's going somewhere else, but let me do this, so it will end it. Okay, so once this end, you can see the whatever context has been created inside the call stack is been removed, and also the scope has been removed. Okay, so in order to show you this very properly, I have a diagram which will help you lot. Okay, whenever you are want to check what can be the output of some question in JavaScript. Okay, yes. So this is our example. Let's understand with a diagram how exactly things are working. Okay, in call stack. So actually, a call stack will have two things. Okay, because hoisting is there. Hoisting, what hoisting will do? It will declare the things first. Okay. So in the call stack, it will divide it into two. First, it will going to have the declaration section here. Declarations. Okay, and in the second one it will run the code. Okay, so in the declarations what will happen is JavaScript will check what all the declarations are there. It will allocate a memory. Okay, so it will check the first line, which is a console. It will not going to check anything there. It will go to the next line, which is saying var x. Okay, it's a declaration. It will not initialize the value, it will just declare the x. Okay, then it will say in the declaration or in the global scope. Okay, in the global scope it will say x is undefined. Okay, so the declarations, right, it declared the memory allocation is happened for x, and the value, initial value, will be undefined. Okay, so once this declaration is done, there are no more declarations to be done, so it will come again. Okay, now this is the time for the running of the program. Okay, so as you see, the first line is console.log x value, so it will print the x value. So what it will see is we'll have a global scope, right? So here we'll have a global scope, and inside that global scope we'll have x value. Okay, so x value is undefined. So what it will do here at the line number 1, it will going to say x as undefined. Okay, and then it will go to the next line where we are initializing it. Okay, so what then it will do is it will going to change the value x equal to 5 in the global scope. Okay, so this will be changed in global scope. Earlier it was undefined, now it was x equal to 5, but as we have consoled it x earlier, it will print undefined because earlier it was undefined. Okay, so this diagram will work very definitely, and you can understand all the things. Okay, so let's have more examples to understand the call stack way more. Okay. Yes. So let's take example of this particular code. Okay. So here also the same thing we are doing, but instead of where we have let. Okay. And as we know that hoisting will not going to work with the new concept, which is let and constant. This is a new concept I am saying because from the ES6. Okay. So these let and cons came from ES6 module. So it will, the hoisting will not going to work on this. Okay. So as hoisting means the memory allocation will not going to happen in the declaration phase, the x will not be available in the global scope to run it. Okay, so this part is null. Okay, so it will go to the next part, which is run. Okay, so this part, so here it will check the first line, which is console.log x. Okay, so in this case there is no x in this global scope, so it will throw a error here. Okay, so it will throw error, and it will say like cannot access x value. Okay, because it's not there, right? So that's why it will say cannot access x value, and it will stop the execution of program, because error, once error came, it will stop it. Okay, it will not go to the next line. So with this, what we can understand is hoisting will not going to work, so the declaration part is completely empty, and the memory allocation also in the global scope will be empty. That's why the x will give a error, this line will going to give a error. Okay. Yes. So this is our third example. So as you can see on the screen, where x equal to 5, that's there. We are creating a x variable equal to 5, initializing with the value 5. And then we have a block. Okay, so there is no if else condition, but if you put anything in the curly braces, means it is a block. Okay, and here inside a block, we have var equal to var x equal to 10. Okay, so we need to guess what will be the output of this console statement, which is x here. Okay, so if you want, you can pause the video and answer it in the comment section, but we are going to understand this concept with the call stack as well. Okay, so let's know about this. Okay, so first the declaration thing. So what it will going to declare is the x. Okay, the x is already there, so what it will going to do, x it will going to declare, or the memory allocation will happen saying that undefined. Okay, and as it will find only x is there, so that's why it will not going to create one more x, because there is one x, right? So it will just declare that and with undefined, and then it will come to the run state. Okay, so in the run state, it will have the first line. Okay, first line, what we are saying, first line we are saying x equal to 5, do this thing. Okay, x equal to 5, do this thing. Okay, so what it will do here is it will say x equal to 5 in the global scope. Okay, so this will happen in the global scope. Now it will go inside the block. Okay, inside the block, and it will say x equal to 10. Okay, here so let's have this. Here it will say x equal to 10, and this reference will go to this, and this x is equal to 5 is gone because we have updated the value. Okay, because we are using var, and it will not it will be a global scope, not a local scope. Okay, that's why it will not going to be like, it will update the value in the global scope. Okay, it will not going to create any local scope, and it will have x equal to 10 value, the latest value for the x will be 10, and once we print it, it will going to print us the result as 10 here. Okay, because in the global scope, that's the number which is exist. Okay, x is 10, that's why it will going to print 10 here. Okay, so with the var, there is no as we know, var is the global scope. Okay, it can be accessible in the global scope. That's why if you put it in the block as well, it the value, whatever value is the latest one, will be the x value. Okay, with the help of var. But yes, so this is our one of the example. Okay, so let's understand what exactly the code we are doing here. Okay, So we have a var and we are saying count equal to 10. Then we have a function declaration where we are printing the count first. Okay. Then we have a var count equal to 40. Okay. First we are printing the count, then we are making the count value as 40, and after that we are calling this function. Okay, say hello, and after that we have a console.logs normally count. Okay, so we have to check what will be the output of this. Okay, so if you want to guess it, you can guess in the comment section. Okay, so what will be the output of the count here inside the function and then here. Okay, so in series what it will going to come. Okay, so we'll understand this particular thing with the help of call stack, and then we are going to run in the JavaScript and we see if that the correct answer or not. Okay, so let's understand this thing first. Okay, so as we are using var and we have function, it means the hoisting will definitely going to work. So the declaration part will going to work. It will allocate the memory in the global scope. Okay, so we have the global scope, it will going to allocate there. Okay, so the first thing we have is count. Okay, so it will say count undefined. Okay, because it's allocating the memory. Okay, and then we have a function here. Okay, function declaration, so it will say function declaration as well here. Say hello, and it will say function here. Okay, so this will be the declaration. Okay, and the other things are just invoking and this thing, so it will not going to allocate anything. Okay, now you see we have count in our global scope as well as the say hello in global scope. Okay, so now it is done, the declaration part is done in the call stack. It will come to the run state. Okay, so let's understand the run state, what is happening here. Okay, so you see we have count equal to 10. Okay, so we are initializing the count as 10, so it will going to make the count equal to 10 here at this point. Okay, now it will go to the next line. Okay, so this function declaration is already happened, it will ignore it and it will go to the next line, which is say hello. Okay, so say hello, we are invoking the function. Okay, so here is the point. Okay, whenever a function is invoked, there will be a execution context will be created inside the call stack. Okay, so inside the call stack there will be a execution context will going to create, which will work similar to the call stack. Okay, so here inside this it will going to create this execution context, which will have again two parts. First one is the execution, sorry, first one is the declaration, second one is the execution which is running. Okay, so in this first one it will check if any declaration is there inside the these brackets. Okay, inside this function any declaration is there or not, as we know that count is again declared here. Okay, so let's understand this execution context as well. Okay, so once the execution context is created, there will be a local scope for that execution context will going to be created. Okay, so these two things we have to understand. Okay, whenever a function invokes, there will be a execution context created inside the call stack, and there will be a dedicated local scope will be created inside the scope. Okay, so this thing we are going to see in the browser as well. Okay, so but first we have to understand how exactly it's working. Okay, so as it is created execution context, we'll have two things, declaration and the execution. So in the declaration it will declare it. Okay, so here we have a count as declaration. Okay, so it will declare again count as undefined. Okay, undefined, and see this count as equal to 10 will not going to change because it is inside the global scope. Okay, this count equal to 10 is inside the global scope, but this count, right, this inside execution count is there in the local scope, which is completely different. Okay, and we know that anything which is inside the local scope cannot be accessed outside of that, so that's why the value 10, the count 10 will not going to change in the global scope. Okay, and you see count equal to undefined we did, which is inside the local scope. Okay, so the declaration, that's the only declaration we have inside the function, so this will end and it will go to the execution one. Okay, so in the execution one we have the console.log which is saying count. Okay, so it will check in the local scope, this function or the execution context will check the output, the value of the count inside the local scope to find out what's the value. Okay, so inside local scope we have the value as undefined, so it will going to print as undefined. Okay, and then what it will do is it will go to the next line where we are initializing count equal to 40. Okay, so it will say here here. Okay, count equal to 40. It will going to say it here. Okay, it's not moving, but yeah, so here it will going to say count equal to 40. It means inside the local scope the count is the 40 right now. Okay, and once this function end, okay, so this is the function end, right, in this position. Okay, so here is the function end. Okay, it will going to remove all the things which is related to the execution context. So it will going to remove this execution context from the call stack, because it has delivered this work, whatever it has to do, it is done. So it will delete this, it will delete the local scope, not this one. Okay, something happening with the controls, but it will going to delete the local scope as well as the execution context once the function execution is done, and it will remove everything. Okay, now last thing we have in this program is say hello is done. It will go to the last line, which is console.log count. Okay, so here what is the value will be going to printed. Now as we know that the count is 40, which is inside the local scope. Okay, but we know that var is a global, okay, global scope variable. Okay, but in the case of function, as the local scope is already deleted, as the function execution is already deleted, the count equal to 40 is no longer there inside the call stack. Okay, so that's why here you will going to get the value as 10. Okay, so it will going to print the value as 10 here. Okay, in this position. So let's verify, is this the correct thing what I have told you. Okay, because this is what happening inside the JavaScript. So let me put this again here, and let me save this, and let's go back to the browser. And you see here, I'll refresh, you will see undefined first and then 10 value. Okay, as I said. So let's go to source, and let's have the few breakpoints here, and let's understand here as well. Okay, so let me have breakpoints here, and on the last one. Okay, so let me refresh. Okay, now it's on the line number 3. Okay, so line number 3, it should have the count as undefined. Okay, so let's open the global scope, and we'll see first thing, function is already there, as we saw in the declaration function. Okay, the say hello declaration or the memory allocation will definitely will there in the global scope, it's there. Okay, so let's see if the count is also there inside this. Let me see if it is after Windows. No, we have to find it somewhere, it will be there. Yeah, here you can see count as undefined. Okay, so it is also been created. So according to this diagram, declaration happened, count and say hello got already created inside the global scope. Okay, now it's time to the next one. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So it went to this line number 10. Okay, because why it didn't went to line number 5, because the declaration is already done, that's why it come to line number 10. Okay, now it will call the function. Okay, so let me do this so we can see. So in the call stack we have this anonymous function, which is the call stack, and we have the global scope. Now as we are calling it at line number 10, it should create a execution context inside the call stack, and it should create a local scope as well. Okay, so let's continue now. So now you see the execution is line number 6, and you see we have our local scope as well as this call stack created say hello. So this say hello you can see in the call stack now. So this is a execution context which I told you, right? The execution context. This is the execution context, and you see count is already been declared as undefined. Okay. So as I said, right, in the execution context also you will find two things. One is declaration, one is execution. So declaration it created as count. Okay, it created as count and assigned the value as undefined. Okay, that allocation is done inside the local. Okay, local is done. Now what will happen with this is, if I run it, it should print us this count as undefined. You can see here, if I hover over the count now, so it's saying undefined. Okay, because the value of the count is not at 40. Okay, it's undefined now. So the first answer is correct, this is undefined, and we can prove it with this debugging. Okay, so let's go to the next line. So in the next line, I'll just put this one on the 7th line as well, and I'll say next. So it comes to the 7th line now, and we can see there is nothing else change, because I have to do one more time next. So now you can see it's on this line number 8 line number. So it is returning something. Okay, so you can see here it's written undefined. Okay, so if you don't have return statement inside the function, it will return something. Okay, but you can see the count here. Okay, the count now is 40. Okay, the count is 40. Now I want you guys to understand this. If I do next, it will go to line number 11, and you have to see this call stack here. Okay, and the local scope. If these two are removed, then it means that we are able to do it properly with the diagram as well. Okay, so I'll click on next. It will come to 11th line, and you see in the call stack and in the scope, the local scope is gone, and in the call stack, the say hello execution context is also gone. So whenever the function returns something in happen, like all the things are done, it will remove the execution context as well as the local scope. Okay, that's why the count 40 is no longer there anywhere. Okay, so if I go to global scope as well, we should be able to see count as 10. Here you can see count as 10. So what will happen now is at line number 11, this will going to return as 10. As you can see, I am hovering on the count and it's saying 10 as the value. So this is the full process of debugging the JS program, and this is how the call stack work. Okay, so if you have this knowledge, this diagram with you, you will understand anything with the related to JavaScript. Okay. Yes, so now the last part, which is event loop. Now let's understand what is event loop in the JavaScript. Okay, so event loop is nothing but it used to execute the events. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so let's take example of this. Okay, set timeout. Okay, so in this particular case, what it will happen is we know that outside will going to print first, then after 2 seconds, this inside one console will going to print. Okay, so after 2 seconds, so this set timeout will be going to add it inside the event loop. So it will be added somewhere. So once all whole execution is done in the call stack, this will going to be executed. Okay. So let's understand it way properly using the diagram. Okay. So let me go to browser, and here we'll create the our call stack. Okay, which will going to have two sections, which we know execution and sorry, declaration and the execution. Okay, so this is the call stack, and then we'll have so this is the event loop. How exactly is happening, that I am going to explain you. Okay, so here we'll have call stack, and here we'll have a web API, and we'll have a queue. Okay, call stack queue we can say to this. Okay, so this will be call stack queue. Okay, and this will be the web API. Okay, so now you see the program. Okay, so this is the program we have, and let's add it somewhere so that we can see it properly. Let's write it here. Okay, and for now because there is no place actually, but yeah, so let's understand this, how exactly the execution works with this set timeout and the console log. Okay, so in the declaration, as we know, there is no declaration. The first section will not going to work, but the second section will going to work. Okay, so whenever JavaScript saw a event, okay, so this is the event. Okay, set timeout, it will going to keep this whole event inside this particular web API, and it will like the set timeout event will be stay inside the web API until unless the execution of the set timeout is done. Okay, so so now you see it saw the first code, which is the set timeout, and it kept in the here. Okay, so here we have our set timeout inside the web API. Okay, so which is running its time, the delay is there, that delay will going to be run there. Okay, and then in the next line it will going to print ours the outside in the call stack execution panel. Okay, so it will print outside. Okay, so after 2 seconds, okay, what will happen is this web API is completed with the 2 seconds. 2 seconds, what will happen then is it will move to the call stack queue. Okay, once this execution, okay, once the whole execution in the JavaScript done, then this will come here and print the value as inside. Okay, here, so it will print the value as inside. Okay, so this process you see, it's called as event loop. Okay, so this whole process called as event loop. So let's understand with a better example and with the more code. Okay, yes, so this is the next example we have. Okay, So this is one of the challenge for you guys also to have to guess the answer in the comment section. Okay, so let me explain you what exactly I'm doing here. So I'm creating a variable with a name as username, and I'm initializing the value with the Steve. Okay, so then I have a set timeout event. After 2 seconds, it will going to print the username. Okay, and one more event I have, which is set timeout for the 1000 millisecond, which is 1 second. What it will do is it will change the username to Bruce. Okay, after 1 second, and then I have a console log which is printing username. So you have to guess the output at line number 33 and the 44. Okay, so how exactly it will going to print. Okay, so the same thing we are going to understand using the event loop and the call stack. Okay, so let's go here, and as we don't have so much space, so that's why I'm writing it here. Okay, so but I think we can work with that for now. So let me remove everything here. So here, okay, so now we know that we have var. Okay, we have var means we can do the declaration, the memory allocation at the first, which is hoisting. So here the user name will be undefined. Okay, and that's the only declaration we have. So this is done. It will go to the execution context, and here it will saw at the line number 2 as set timeout. What it will do is it will going to move this set timeout inside the web API. Okay, with the timer of 2000 milliseconds. Okay, so this is the timer right now. It will going to set it here, and it will going to move to the next line. Okay, so again it will see one more timer there. It will again going to move this code inside the web API, saying that this is the timer we have for the 1000 seconds. Okay, so 1000 milliseconds, sorry. Okay, 1 second, which means, and then it will move to the next line, which is username here. Okay, but before that, it's changing the name here, right? Before these two as well, in the global scope, what it is doing is username got changed. Okay, so username, it will be Steve now. Okay, in the global scope. Now then it will move this set timeout to the web API. Set timeout 1 second has a move to the web API, and then lastly we are printing the username. Okay, so it will check what is the username inside the global scope, because see, set timeout will print later. Okay, right now it will going to see the console in the bottom, which will going to refer to the current global scope, which is saying Steve as the name. So it will going to print Steve here. Okay, so this is the first print will be Steve as a name. Okay, then what will happen is in the web API, it will this will going to be executing, because the timer is going on, right? So first timer will be this one, this 1000 second is there, right? So this will going to be moved to the call stack queue. Okay, so let me move this. No, the controls. So it will move to the call stack. Okay, and then it will move this thing. Okay, after 2 seconds it will going to move this thing as well to the call stack. Okay, so let's do this and let's move it here as well. Okay, so once this program is done, okay, once this whole thing is completely done, this will come into the picture. Okay, so first thing will going to be printed, which is the which will come to the call stack, which is the first thing whatever is done inside this. Doesn't matter the thing, like how like the set timeout for this is first, this is second, whichever is done first come to the call stack and will going to be executed first. Okay, so that's how this thing works. Okay, first in first out, we can say. Okay, so this is the first in, it will first out, and inside this we have a code as username equal to Bruce. Okay, so in this point it will going to make username. Okay, username will going to be Bruce at this point. Okay, so username will be Bruce here. So it will going to change this name inside the global scope. Okay, so then we have this 2 second timer, right? That will going to come now. Okay, once this is done, it will going to come, this will going to come. Okay, so in this point, what are we saying here? We are just printing console.log username. So as the global scope, the name is changed, it will going to print us the Bruce, which is the second print. Okay, second print. Okay, so this is how the call stack and the event loop works. So this whole process now, this is called as event loop, which is tracking all your events, and all the events will be executed once all full code is executed, like whole code is executed now. After that, these events will be executed. Before that, it will not going to run this. Okay, so this is how this thing works, and let's run this inside the JavaScript. So this we have already. So let's see, is that the correct answer we are getting here? So if I refresh, Steve we can see first, then we are seeing Bruce. Okay, that's the output we are predicting with the call stack diagram. Okay, it's printing, first print will be Steve, second print will be the Bruce. Okay, so that's how the call stack work, that's how the event loop work. Okay. Yes. So I know that this is a very difficult concept, I can say right now for you if you are new to JavaScript, but this is a very easy thing. Okay, you will understand once you start practicing with the different types of examples and all. I'll keep some examples in the code, so you can go to the GitHub, which is the link is in the description. You can find the code and examples. You can try out with yourself with this diagram. Okay, so just create a call stack diagram, web API call queue, and try to run, like try to assume like how exactly the things are working and check the output then in the console. Once you do this, right, once you do so many times with the example, you can do practice, then only you will understand, and without hesitation you can predict any answer in the JavaScript. Okay, so thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing and give it a like. I'll be back with more content in the next video. Thank you.